I'm here on behalf of a president who has, from his first day in office, operated on three core principles of pure, unadulterated common sense. First, that a leader's primary duty is to put America and Americans first. Second, that the surest and only real path to peace is through strength. And at the War Department, that is our department. We are the Strength Department. You are part of that Strength Department. And third, a nation that cannot build for itself, a nation that cannot create its own tools, its own defenses, its own 3D printers, its own future, is a nation that is in managed decline. And for too long, elites on both sides of the aisle, in both parties, sat idly by and accepted this backward status quo. But not President Trump. He recognized that decline is, in fact, a choice that we must fundamentally reject in every sense of the word. And in doing so, he has unleashed a great American revival, a reawakening of our industrial spirit and a national confidence. A new, I would call it, and he calls it, a golden age for America, that all of you here are a big part of building. And as his Secretary of War, my mission is to ignite that revival. The mission has three core components, three pillars that we've stood on from day one. First is we're reviving the warrior ethos within our fighting force, reminding warriors and everyone involved our sole purpose is to be the most lethal fighting force on the planet, full stop. We are also reestablishing deterrence. Deterrence that is so absolute and so unquestioned that America's enemies shall not, should not, will not want to test us. Under a previous administration, the world questioned American strength, whether it was the debacle in Afghanistan, the invasion of Ukraine, or the war unleashed in Israel by Hamas on October 7th, all of which would have never happened under President Trump. That era of doubt and smeared American reputation is over. Deterrence is back and the world is taking notice. A few examples. When the Houthis attacked our ships, in the previous administration, they just sort of dealt with it as the new status quo. We responded with 50 days of unrelenting bombing, and our ships now sail freely and unprovoked. It turns out they did cry uncle, were prepared to cry uncle when they were met with the strength of the United States military. Since Thomas Jefferson, our ships have sailed freely on the high seas. That will remain the case. That is deterrence in action. When Iran pursued nuclear capabilities, our beautiful B-2s flew 37 hours across the world to drop 14 precision munitions exactly where they were supposed to land, all at the same time without Iran seeing us until we were out of the country. That is deterrence in action. When narco-terrorist drug cartels, the Al-Qaeda of our hemisphere, I'm sure all of you, everybody's been touched by drug overdoses and the onslaught of drugs in our country, the poisoning of the American people. President Trump said no more. When those narco-terrorists send drugs to our shores to poison Americans, we no longer play the catch and release game, the cat and mouse game. We sink their boats. That is deterrence in action. When our southern border was overwhelmed by an anarchist invasion, an invasion of millions of people, we have no idea who they are, coming illegally, we secured it. For 7 months, zero crossings of the U.S.-Mexico border, absolute sovereignty. That is deterrence in action. And when American justice was required in Venezuela, nearly 200 of our best went into downtown Caracas, secured and indicted targets in their most heavily fortified military base, and returned without a single U.S. casualty. That is deterrence in action. Because of President Trump's leadership, the world once again sees American power, American strength, and American resolve. That's why we're proudly calling ourselves the Department of War. Not because we seek war, far from it, but because we know that in order to keep the peace, you must be prepared to utterly and decisively win in conflict. Peace through strength is a real thing, in a modern contested world. If your enemy thinks you have the willingness and the capability to defeat them anywhere in the world, anytime on your terms, that's how you deter the conflict to begin with. Because peace is ultimately the goal of our president and ultimately our goal.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to Mirror Now.